Loretta Sonia, 59, teacher.
Jeff Cruz, 42 years old. And how do I know you?
Yeah.
I'm a teacher.
Okay.
JC Moya, 39, I'm your teacher.
Can you summarize in one sentence what happened on 9/11?
Al-Qaeda terrorists hijacked 4 planes and flew them into the World Trade Center towers, the Pentagon, and intended on flying one into the White House.
Terrorist attack on our country.
The United States as we knew it changed.
I drove around to check in with all of my family and loved ones because we weren't sure if people were alive or dead. And in the end, after I had checked in with most people, it was just we were just profoundly sad because we knew that life as we knew it had just changed and we were going to go to war.
Who was the president of the U.S. at the time?
George Bush.
George W. Bush.
Are you serious with this question? George Bush?
Who was the vice president?
Cheney.
Cheney.
Who was the Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense?
Colin Powell.
He's the puppet master. That's what everybody has come to believe. He was the man in charge, and George Bush was more or less his puppet.
Condoleezza Rice was the National Security Advisor, and John Ashcroft was the head of the Department of Justice. He was the Attorney General.
Which important sites, cities, states were involved?
New York, Washington, and Pennsylvania.
New York, Washington, Pennsylvania.
How did the attack happen? What were the weapons that were used?
The hijackers boarded planes like passengers. They used 2 guys on each plane who were muscle men, and basically they used box cutters to
Use planes to fly them into buildings, twin towers.
You could say that a missile was used, but the problem is I think it was our own missile. I have no clue, no idea what happened with the Pentagon. I don't think anybody does. And anybody who says that they know what happened must be full of crap or delusional or something.
Approximately how many people were killed in the U.S. attacks?
3,000.
3,994.
3,000?
Who specifically did the attack?
Al-Qaeda terrorists, particularly led by a guy named Mohammed Atta, who is from Egypt. The majority of the other terrorists were from Saudi Arabia.
2 terrorists. 15 were Saudi.
What were the reasons for the given attack? Why did they attack us?
Basically because we're the United States.
They hate Americans. They don't like their freedoms. They don't believe in. They don't have the same beliefs that we do.
What countries were the attackers from?
Saudi Arabia and Egypt. One attacker was from Yemen.
Attackers allegedly trained
Here in the U.S.
United States.
Osama bin Laden. But I think he may have been potentially a fall guy.
Which countries did the U.S. attack, invade, or go to war with?
The first invasion was in Afghanistan. They overthrew the Taliban, although the Taliban is back. And then a few years later, they decided to invade Iraq.
Iraq.
Can you name the leader of the group or countries that were attacked by the U.S.?
You mean Bin Laden?
Again, Saddam Hussein, as bad a guy as he was, at least he didn't like terrorists either. So,
any countries or international organizations that supported the U.S. decision to go to war against those countries?
England.
NATO supported the United States, and the UN came together to support the United States in the invasion of Afghanistan. It was harder to get U.S. support for the invasion of Iraq, so the countries that helped us there were Britain, Australia, Poland, Japan.
packaged it was that we were liberating those people, but in reality, we went in, we occupied, we toppled the government that was there, and we tried to, basically give people the democracy who are not ready for democracy. They're not even close to being ready for democracy.
How many Americans died in those wars?
More of them that died in the plane attacks.
I have no clue.
Approximately how much money was spent on those wars?
Enough money to have been able to build schools, hospitals, roads.
$1 trillion.
I remember they were saying what it was per day and the number was so it was such a large number about what they were spending per day that to possibly to quantify it, I can't do that.
Do you believe the war that the U.S. engaged in were just wars?
The concept of just warfare is very complicated. I would say that it's difficult to call something a just war if everyone says that the war in Afghanistan was a just war. It's hard to argue with that. History has proven that the Iraq War was potentially not very just at all.
What did the wars accomplish?
Pretty much nothing.
I think we should have just done nothing. So I think we had to do something.
Yeah, good question.
ISIS.
What countries, group, organizations, or industrials, if any, benefit from the war?
all of Cheney's businesses benefited from the war. Cheney was up to his neck in Halliburton and these other defense contractors, and they all benefited greatly from the war. Historically, war is good for business because when you go to war, you gotta buy tanks and helicopters and missiles, and we manufacture those tanks and helicopters and missiles, and so it was generally speaking, often war is usually good for the economy. However, it didn't quite work out that way with this particular war. Maybe we're buying our tanks from China. I don't know, but I do know that as a direct result of this war, our gross national debt is the highest it's obviously ever been in the history of the country.
That's a good question.
Nobody?
Lose any freedom, rights, or liberties as a result of the 9/11 attack?
Yeah, there's a long, long list of things that we lost. However, I believe that we did lose a lot of our civil liberties and our right to privacy and everything.
Yeah, that's why we have all the security everywhere.
Yes.
Believe the U.S. government told its citizens the truth about 9/11 and the reasons for going to war?
No.
Yeah, to quote former CIA agent Robert Baer, I don't believe in conspiracies because Washington can't even keep the smallest secrets. Having said that, Saudi Arabia definitely played some sort of a role that because of our relationship with Saudi Arabia, the United States isn't willing to disclose.
Did any of these questions make you feel uncomfortable or upset?
No, just stupid because I didn't know the answers.
No.
No, not in talking to you, but in talking about it in general, I got some really bad feelings, especially at the beginning when I was trying to remember what that day was like. I have like what do you call it? A lump in my throat a little bit. It was a really, really, really bad day. I grew up looking all the time. Every time I took off in an airplane, landed, every time I was driving up the New Jersey Turnpike or the Garden State Parkway, I could always get my bearings by looking for the Twin Towers because they're so tall. So you could always figure out where you were, how far you were away from home, whether you were north, south, east, or west. And then one day, I'm standing there and I can't see them anymore. There's just a big cloud of smoke. You can't even see all of Lower Manhattan was buried, and I didn't know if my brother was dead or alive. I didn't know if my best friend was dead or alive. I knew a couple people who were killed in the towers, and it was a horrible, horrible day. And the thing that really sucks is that those people are civilians. This was not an act. This was not a military.